Good morning, Yellow class. Welcome to Tuesday. I hope you had a really good day yesterday, and let's see what things we can be getting on with today. So, starting off with our phonics, today we are carrying on looking at that OR phoneme, but we are looking at the OR phoneme spelt with the AU. Now this phoneme tends to come in the middle of words. Sometimes there are a couple of occasions where it's at the beginning, but it tends to come in the middle. So we've got words like or nt, haunt, or nch, launch, or s, clause. Then we have got other words like August, August. Okay? So have a look for those words, and again, if you can get onto Phonics Play, have a play on there. If you can't get on Phonics Play, you can make your own bingo games, have a go at doing something, see what you can do. Guided reading today, what I'd like you to do is you are writing a book review of your favourite Christina Stevenson book about Sir Charlie Stinky Socks. Now I know you've all done book reviews before, so you should know the format. I will just remind you of the 6 books that we have read. So we have read Sir Charlie Stinky Socks and The Really Big Adventure. So that's the first book where we meet Sir Charlie, and where at the end of that book he's helping out the princess. In the second story we've got The Tale of the Really Frightful Night. So that was the story where there's that sobbing and he's trying to sort things out and he has to find the princess's teddy bear. So Charlie Stinky Socks and The Really Dreadful Spell. So if you remember that story, Sir Charlie bumps into somebody. He's going home from the party and he bumps into the mysterious stranger, and the mysterious stranger, we start to think he's a bit of a bad character and he's a little bit worrying, isn't he, to begin with, but actually what's happened is he's been asked to do all that clearing up at the party and he's not very happy about it. So Charlie Stinky Socks and The Tale of the Terrible Secret. So that's the story all about the king, and the king gets really upset because he did something silly and he threw that book away down the well. So Charlie Stinky Socks and The Tale of Two Treasures. So that's the one we were thinking about last week. So in that story you've got Sir Charlie and he's going out, gets sent out to find something. The king sends him out and he goes and he finds a treasure, and it turns out the treasure is the spell book at the bottom of the well. And then the book that some of you heard in school, some of you may have seen the video, Sir Charlie Stinky Socks and The Tale of the Wizard's Whisper. So that's the last book that we read. So I want you to think about your favourite one of those books. You just need to pick one book, write the title in. What was your favourite part of that story? Was there a bit that you didn't like? Because sometimes, even when we really like a story, there are parts that we maybe don't like. What's your favourite character in that story and why? Was there a bit that puzzled you? Sometimes books are a bit puzzling, so we might have a bit that's a bit puzzling. What would you give this book? There's 10 stars. Would you give it 10 out of 10? Would you give it less than that? And why? Why would somebody else like this book? And is there another story that it reminds you of? Because there are some stories that are woven through those Sir Charlie books, and they do sometimes remind us of other stories that we know. So in our maths, we are going to start off today with some bingo. The bingo is going to be on a separate video, so you'll have to look at the other video to find out how to play that, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. We're carrying on with our fractions today. Now last week we were looking at division. Division and fractions are very similar to each other, and we work them out in the same sort of way. So again, a bit like we talked about yesterday, all is for everybody. Everybody should be able to do these bits here. So looking at these fractions here, we've got fraction, a half, a quarter, and a third. We should know those. Now today, what we're thinking about is we are not thinking about fractions of shape, we are going to think about fractions of numbers. So when your parents are helping you today, what you need to think about is making sure that you can find exact fractions of the numbers that you are looking at. So on here I've got a few examples. So this says half of 8 is. Now you might need to draw a diagram to help you. So if I was going to do that, do you remember we've talked about this in class? I tend to think about fractions a bit like pizzas, and I imagine that this is some topping that I'm sharing out. It's a half, so I've got to split it into 2, and maybe I've got the pepperoni, and I'm going to share out 8 pieces of pepperoni, and I can see that half of 8 is 4, because on this half I've got 4, and this half I've got 4. And that special word we were talking about was equal. Now when you're doing this, if you end up that you haven't got an equal amount, you might need to think about that, and you might need to think, do you need to redo your diagram? A quarter of 12, so when we're looking at a quarter, it tells us we've got to split our pizza into 4 pieces. I've got 12 pieces of pineapple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And when we have a look, we're looking for 1/4. So this here is 1/4. 1/4 of 12 is 3. And so again, thirds, a third of 6 is, and if I draw my diagram, I'm going to split my pizza into 3 parts, because 1/3 says 1/3 of 6. So I've got 6 pieces of pepper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got those 6 pieces, and I just want one of those. So a third of 6 is 2. And again, you should all be able to have a go at doing that. Just be very careful with those numbers, because you need to make sure that you can halve your number or quarter it or find thirds of it. Okay? So